ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Economic Briefcase on Camnet TV, not just another channel. Today we have for you a very interesting topic. And before I go and mention what topic we are discussing today, I'd like to remind you that we are live on Topstar, we are live on DSTV, we are live on Facebook, on YouTube, so we are being watched basically worldwide. We are going to open the phone lines very early into the program, so if you really want to participate in our program, you can feel free to call the numbers that are appearing below the screen. You can also send us text messages if you are shy to talk. We'll read out and interact with you. Today in the studio with me, as per tradition, is my co-host, Mr. Noah Njapao. So Njapao, how has been the week?
The week has been a bit hectic. I was mourning my cousin, and
my condolences, by the way.
Thank you.
And I heard you were sick. Is it 2 days ago?
Yes.
You must have gotten food poisoning. And let's hope that you continue staying healthy, and the country needs you. Definitely.
And you also lost a colleague this week.
Yes, we lost a colleague. May he rest in peace. Honorable Tutangulube was, quite energetic young man. A lawmaker, deputy chief whip. I think very few of us are brave enough to go into politics, and,
especially at a young age like that.
Yes, and sudden death. Our prayers with his family. I think this was a funeral that was, if you saw, both the ruling party and opposition attended. It shows that as a country we are more united, even if we differ on certain views. But as a country, that shows unity. That's why I have hope in this in this country.
We recommend that.
On that side note, I'd like to first go into to understand what is obtaining on the market before we. By the way, the topic is not a secret. We are discussing NAPSA reforms. The issues to do with your pensions and the ability to get part of your pensions and invest them into businesses. Today we have a guest for you who's going to break down all these issues. So those that are not watching, my neighbor, call them, call everybody. Stay tuned, because these are at Kanizandalama. Very wako sensitive. If we can borrow from a song, not in Kanyam Tima, but in Kanyan drama, yari wako sensitive. Yeah. So Mr. Njapao, money matters. What is obtaining in the capital money, or should I just say the financial markets and commodities markets?
Okay, so the market updates today, we need to quickly go through it so that we can start digesting our topic. It's very interesting. So as of today, the 8th of December 2022, the kwacha against the four major currencies. Okay, so the dollar closed off selling at 17 kwacha, 32 ngwe. The pound closed off selling at 21 kwacha, 13 ngwe. The euro closed off selling at 18 kwacha, 22 ngwe. The rand closed off selling at 1 kwacha, 1 ngwe. Selected metal prices delayed by a day. Aluminium closed off selling at $2,485.50 per ton. Copper closed off selling at $8,456.50 per ton. Zinc closed off selling at $3,183. Lead closed off selling at $2,212 per ton. Tin closed off selling at $24,306. Nickel closed off selling at $31,441. Crude oil prices. WTI crude closed off selling at $72.41. Brent crude closed off selling at $77.18. That's all we had on the market update.
We have seen the kwacha, must have been misbehaving, but it has, quite stabilized. Copper prices have gone up.
Yes, and crude is going down. We're at 77 now.
77. So do we expect ERB?
We are hoping by the end of the month, the pump prices would have reduced
we hope that
slightly.
It's done maybe on the 20th, so that we can drive to Mfuwe cheaply.
For the festive season.
Well, as earlier promised, today we are discussing, NAPSA reforms, pension reforms, and in our studios today is the head corporate affairs, Mr. Cephas Sinyangwe. Sinyangwe, добрый вечер.
Добрый вечер, док. Приятно вас увидеть.
I think my friend is very surprised. Тоже поговори по-русски.
Конечно.
Вы тоже говорите по-русски? Это хорошо, это очень приятно.
Yeah, so what we're discussing that, very soon there's going to be a windfall. I'm joking. Those we were, exchanging greetings in a language from far.
Yeah.
Mr. Sinyangwe, it's a pleasure to have you. Me and NAPSA relationship has been very good.
Yeah.
I hope that my employer sends my returns on time because I want to receive a stable income when I'm no longer in employment. Anything can happen. So as per our tradition, maybe people what NAPSA is all about, and who is Mr. Sinyangwe? Just in a nutshell.
All right. Cephas Sinyangwe is basically a corporate communications specialist trained in public relations in Russia. And I've been in the industry for over 15 years now, cutting across from marketing, hospitality, mining, and now in the financial sector, pension administration. So I've been around for quite a bit, but still learning a lot. I'm a graduate with a master's degree from the Copperbelt University.
Wow.
Sure. So thank you very much for that good lesson that we had to go through your hands as well.
Yeah, I think at that time I was at the Copperbelt University.
Yes.
Oh, he was your lecturer?
Well, not directly, but we used to get some inspiration.
I think I used to coordinate
Yes. So I'm in charge of corporate affairs at the National Pension Scheme Authority, basically to do with corporate communications, image building, reputational management, events management, and all that comes with it.
So,
I'm married, by the way, to one wife with 4 children.
That is off the market. So a lot of people, let me just try to brag about my knowledge over the pension schemes. I think we have the foreign pension funds that are government owned. There's the local authorities superannuation fund.
Yes.
There's the NAPSA National Pension Scheme Authority.
Yes.
There's the last NAPSA,
public service pension.
PSPF, public pension.
Yes.
Then there's another one, public service pension
That's
fund.
public service pension fund.
Yes, that is PSPF.
Yes.
There should be another one.
So we basically the government. Those are the ones you've mentioned. There's NAPSA, there's PSPF, and there's LASIF.
And there's LASIF.
Yes.
So
the others are private pension schemes.
Okay.
Occupational pension schemes.
So there's the laws that regulate them is the NAPSA Act, the Pension and Insurance Act, the PSPF Act, LASF Act, and the one for private companies. Is it
so that's now the PIA, under the PIA.
Under the PIA,
yes.
And then there's one land and trust deeds for trusts. I'm just trying to brag. I know something. So NAPSA, what is NAPSA?
So NAPSA is this very important national institution that was created by the government with the purpose of providing replacement income in retirement, primarily, and when a person is faced with an invalidity, where you are declared by a medical board that you are no longer able to work and earn a living. So this institution comes in to provide that replacement income, and also to provide income to the family of the deceased member when you are no longer there. So those are the 3 key principal risks that NAPSA covers. So we are there basically to make sure that workers of this country do not fall into destitution when any of this happens, but primarily when you go into retirement, that you have a stable income coming through through your life until you die. And when you die, all those that are dependent on you still continue basically living on some sustainable income that continues to flow their way. So that is a very important mandate that government gave to this institution, the National Pension Scheme Authority, as a basic scheme, first tier scheme that is mandatory for all, except a few that are exempt but that are taken care of by other schemes, for example, the armed forces who are not covered. And then also those that are working in diplomatic missions, those institutions that are given diplomatic status, those do not contribute to NAPSA, they're exempted. But otherwise, everyone else is supposed to be a member of NAPSA as long as they are 16 years and above, and between 16 rather and 65 years, and earning an income that is consistent. According to the National Pension Scheme Act, that is anyone earning 15 kwacha and above. And you can imagine that probably there's no one earning an income of 15 kwacha. So what that means is basically everyone is covered. And other than those that are in the formal sector, where there is a formal employer-employee relationship, even those that are self-employed, the business women and businessmen that are selling tomato, that are doing welding at garden and other places, that the bus and taxi drivers, the sawmillers, and all those that are earning their own living, including domestic workers, they are all covered. So basically, this is a scheme for everyone. Everyone is supposed to be a member, so that come that time when they are no longer able to work, this scheme steps in to provide that replacement income. So that's a very important mandate of the National Pension Scheme Authority. But in between collecting contributions, both from those in the formal sector where you have an employer-employee relationship, and also collecting contributions from those that are in this informal sector or are self-employed, there is a lot of work that happens in between to make sure that those contributions that are obtained are properly invested to earn a very good return as defined by the actuaries as to what is sustainable, and then that money also goes to help in terms of growing the economy, and then that money is available to be paid to the owner when when they claim it. And they not just they are receiving the money they put in, but they're receiving far much more than they put in because of the value that would have been added as they were contributing through their life. So this is a very important mandate to the member to pay those benefits, but also to contribute to economic development. And we'll be pointing out some of the things that we're doing in terms of our investments in the country, and in terms of what value we are adding to both the members and the country.
So before we even start digesting the reforms, the NAPSA reforms, which is a big elephant now in the room, the pension industry has actually gone through a number of changes from time immemorial until now. NAPSA, together with its predecessors. Yeah. So what reforms, just in a nutshell, briefly, what has the pension industry gone through?
Okay, so I think the first things first, when we got independence, or maybe even before we got independence, there was no proper pension scheme for the majority Zambians, for the locals. I think whatever system was there was mostly for the, I would call them colonialists. And so Zambians didn't have a proper pension scheme to look after them when they were no longer working. And so after independence, the government saw it fit to actually introduce a scheme that will take care of the interests of the Zambians. And that is how the National Provident Fund was created in 1966. This was a scheme that was created to provide that income in retirement. Now, the way the National Provident Fund was created was that it was a savings scheme. Mm-hmm. So members would contribute a very small amount. The contribution was very small. And then when somebody retired, they were given whatever money they would have contributed plus interest. And then that's it. Off you go. Over time, obviously, the scheme faced a number of challenges in terms of the contributions were not increasing, and they were very small. So the scheme was not making enough. It was not receiving enough contributions to invest and make more money, and yet it was bleeding money to pay off the pensioners who were qualifying. And so also the economic crisis that the country had to go through. The government did undertake a number of reforms, I mean a number of studies and research, and consultations were held to just try to understand how best they could manage the pension scheme in the country. And I think in the 1980s there was a very big study that was done that recommended for the change of the type of scheme, because the Zambia National Provident Fund was not answering to the principal aspects of a pension scheme. You know, the pension scheme by nature is supposed to look after you when you are no longer in employment. Now, what happened with the Zambia National Provident Fund is people would get their money one-off when they retire, and off they went, blew up the money, and ended up in serious destitution. No wonder you would find that in the 90s and early 2000s, most of the guards would find up guarding properties were old men. Today, things have changed. You find young men now guarding, because the old men have kind of phased out. It's because people would blow up the money and fail to go to the village and end up now just looking for any simple job that they could do in town. So because of those challenges, huge administrative costs that were incurred in the running of the scheme couldn't just continue. And the government saw it fit to actually introduce a new scheme that would address some of those challenges that were identified. And that's how the National Pension Scheme Authority was born in 2000. Precisely on 1st February 2000, the National Pension Scheme Authority started operating with a different model. If the Zambia National Provident Fund was a savings scheme, which would, when you retire, give you all the money that you would have saved with interest added on top, and then you are left to go. Whatever happens to you is not important. The National Pension Scheme was mandated to look after you in retirement. And so the principal difference there was that you are going to be maintained on a salary, basically. That monthly pension, that annuity, until you die. You should have income flowing in your direction, such that come what may, you will not fall into destitution. You referring to lump sum?
I was saying, apart from the lump sum, you continue getting a monthly.
So the lump sum is paid, even today, the lump sum is paid when you do not qualify for a monthly pension. The monthly pension is a premium. For us, that's what you should aspire to. That's what you should actually work towards, because you know when you get that, you are protected for life. But there are times when you don't qualify, because there's a minimum qualifying criteria, which is 180 contributions. So when you don't garner those 180 contributions, when you retire and we check your statement, you find that you haven't garnered 180 contributions. We then give you, we calculate the contributions that you made from the employer. We index the contribution against loss of value, and then our interest is added, and that money is given to you one-off. But when we part company with you like that, we are not happy, because we don't know what will happen with you after that. But when we know that you are with us, and we put you on a monthly pension because you qualified, then we know you are protected. Because when you continue receiving that monthly pension, that annuity, and which continues growing as years go by, with the increase, with the change in the national average earnings. So in terms of reforms, the government, I think, started to do reforms where to change the way the pension scheme the pension system is structured in the country. You realize that there's tier 0, which is the first tier. These are the government programs that, like FISI, like food security packs, social cash transfer, those that are given to identified vulnerable households. That's like the tier 0, government-sponsored and donor-funded programs. Then comes the tier 1, which is the National Pension Scheme Authority, which is a basic scheme. Now, basic scheme in that it does not guarantee you full amount of the money that you should ordinarily be getting. Now, what do I mean here? The National Pension Scheme Authority guarantees about 40% or up to 40% of your average career earnings. That's how the scheme was designed. So if when you calculate over your life or your working life, For example, at some point you are getting a 1,000, you were getting a 2,500. By the time you retire, you are getting a 25,000. But average over your life, you find it's 10,000. NAPSA guarantees you up to 40% of that, which is 4,000. Okay, as your monthly pension startup. Now, what that means is that there's supposed to be a second tier, which is the occupational pension schemes, which are also supposed to bring in that 40% income replacement. So after that, there's supposed to be now your own personal savings, your own kantemba, your own farm, where you're doing something, your own insurance product that you could have invested in, brings in 20%, such that at the end of the day, you are supposed to get about 100%, about 100% of your career average. That should make you live your life comfortably like you are in employment. So now what we have currently is that we have the NAPSA, which is mandatory for everyone, and everyone working is contributing or supposed to contribute to the NAPSA. Then we have the second tier, which is not mandatory. So you have companies where they don't have occupational schemes. So employees only depend on NAPSA. And then they don't have also the third tier where they have invested, maybe they don't have maybe enough money to invest. So you only have one tier that you are depending on as a person, which is only guaranteeing you about 40% of your average career income. Now what that does is when you retire, you definitely are going to have a reduction in your income because there is only one tier that you are depending on. And so that's why it's important that as you are working, you understand these things. And that's why we are telling people to get interested in pension issues. You need to understand how am I going to live my life after pension? Because then you are able to plan properly. Then you are at least able to invest in a little something, and you are able to add from the 40% that NAPSA is guaranteeing you, you are able to add another 20%. Even if you don't have an occupational arrangement, at least you have your average income increased, and you are guaranteed of a comfortable life after retirement. But over and above that, I think what is important is that we need to enhance financial literacy, where people need to learn about how to plan, to manage their resources way earlier. Not somebody's 50, they are about to retire, then we start taking them through pre-retirement training on how to invest. It's probably too late. By that time, you should be living in your own house, or you should have a farm or another investment where you are drawing an extra income. But if that's the time you want to invest at retirement, that's when you want to get a huge amount of money to go and buy a house, it's probably too late. That's where you find somebody starts building, they reach window level or just slab level, the money is finished, and they start selling. And you are selling at a lower value than you probably invested. And that leads to destitution. And so it's very, very important that we, as a nation, we relook at our financial literacy programs. We relook at our financial planning, so that we begin to inculcate this sense as early as possible, so that come when a person reaches retirement, your retirement money is supposed to be for you to go and buy bread and butter and milk and enjoy your life without you having to worry about whether you have midi meal in the home, whether you have cooking oil, and those basic things. But at least you have a roof on top of your head and other things around you.
So if I want to understand properly, for example, I work for UNZA. So 5% from my salary and 5% from the employer.
From the employer, yes.
So it goes. But if I want, I can top up more?
So currently, there is no that provision under NAPSA, but there have been those talks, people saying, why don't you open up? And people have seen that when you look at the money that somebody gets from NAPSA after investing, it's quite some significant amount of money. And people are saying, instead of me contributing to that scheme, which just gives me a small interest on my contribution, I would like to increase my contribution to NAPSA because it's earning me a bigger return, and I'm going to get more money than me, and it's going to sustain me even for life and for longer, and even my children. These are things that we're looking at now to say, probably these are things that should be incorporated, and there are discussions around how this scheme can be made better. And that's how even these reforms that are coming, that have come, and there's others that are coming, are meant to simply make this even a better product that will respond to the needs of the people.
I must admit that Zambia's pension system is one of the best in the world. I would like to admit that. And why? Because I've done comparisons with other countries, especially African countries. So there's one thing that people don't know in this country. The people in the formal sector, those things normally happen by default. But there are colleagues, the welders, the bus drivers, our maids, garden boys. How is the NAPSA? Are they captured under NAPSA? Because some people, or those that are not in employment but they are selling to my business, how can they be captured? Because I know NAPSA captures such people.
Okay, thank you very much. Maybe before I answer that, I want to draw on what you've just said, that in Zambia we have a very good pension scheme. Sometimes there is this biblical saying that the prophet is not accepted in his own country, in his own land. Maybe that is something that could someone could say maybe could be happening sometimes. In the last 2 months, we had 2 delegations, one from Eswatini. They came to learn about how we are operating because they've seen the model which is working. Just this week, we had a team from Tanzania, from the compatriot institution, the fund pension scheme in Tanzania. They came to learn from us. On the global scale, NAPSA is being put as an example of what should be done when it comes to issues, for example, of how to extend coverage to the informal sector and things like that. I'm glad to have been part of the the African Union in terms of developing strategies and programs for the extension of coverage to the informal sector. So there's quite a bit happening in this area. And how are we doing this? It's because, first of all, we've made a deliberate decision that Social Security is for everyone. Everyone has a right. It's a basic human right for all. And having made a deliberate decision that we need to extend coverage to everyone, there is a special unit designated to undertake programs, all the programs related to the issue to do with informal sector coverage. And so that unit is there to design programs and activities and engagements with different stakeholders, applying the recognized international standards by the International Social Security Association. They have put up standards that should be followed. We're following those standards to make sure that we create the system first, the administrative system that we need to be able, for us to be able to do that. How have we done that? We have implemented ICT solutions where a marketeer sitting at the market can make a contribution to NAPSA either on a daily basis, on a weekly basis, monthly basis, or one-off if they have enough money for a minimum of 50 kwacha contribution, 2 times 12 months, 600. If you have enough money, 600 one-off, it's spread across 12 months. And we've developed a package, the benefits package, specially tailored to the informal sector. Because as you know, the informal sector is structured differently from the formal sector. If you and me, where we are working, we are able to go and request for a salary advance, or we can present a pay slip to the bank and the bank says, okay, so you have stable income, we can give you a loan. And when you and I probably have medical insurance, our colleagues in the informal sector don't have any of that. So what NAPSA has done is come up with a benefits package that responds to those needs. A woman in the formal sector has access to maternity benefits, where when she goes on maternity, she keeps on drawing a salary. A marketeer doesn't have that. That's where you find sometimes in the rain, a woman is sitting with a 1-month-old baby in the rain because they need to sell so that they go and feed the children. But with NAPSA, if you are a member of NAPSA, a marketeer and a member of NAPSA, when you are on maternity, NAPSA comes in to give you maternity benefit, just like it happens in the formal sector. And also to address the issue of lack of credit facilities, if you are a member of NAPSA, you contribute to NAPSA, you're able to walk into a partner bank and get a loan to be able to boost your business and pay very little interest per month. If you want to pay it in 3 months, 4 months, you go and get more merchandise to sell.
This is not I'm getting interested. So
yeah, so this is what is happening, and this is happening because NAPSA has made a deliberate decision that we need to extend Social Security to everyone. Mind you, The informal sector in Zambia makes up over 80% of the population, the working population. Working population in Zambia is just about 1 million, almost 2 million in the informal sector. Now, if you leave out that big sector, then it's a time bomb. But we've decided that this needs to be carried along. Of course, there are challenges, but it's better to start and learn as we go. And I think as we are going, we are picking up very important lessons that even the international community is coming to learn from us and also inviting to share with the world how we are doing what we are doing.
You spoke about financial literacy. First of all, I would like to recommend the 2 points that you raised about the maternity benefit and walking into a partner bank as someone who works in the informal sector and request for a loan. That is very good, very commendable. But speaking about financial literacy, of course, there's need for people to be taught financial discipline so that could own a house even before they retire, not thinking about building when they start receiving their benefits or when they receive their benefits. But looking at our current situation, our current landscape, our average earnings for someone in the formal sector, employed, on average, should be around 6,000, around there, 5, 4, hovering around that. So when we ask for people to start building their houses now, when our food basket is at 9,000 for a family of how many? 5?
5, 6.
5, 6. Yes. Isn't that a bit of a stretch for an individual?
Well, I think this is where there are comprehensive programs in place to try and address that. And if I've heard the government and the president speak, the economy is going to be driven by making sure that business grows. Jobs are created by private sector. When the private sector flourishes, more jobs and more income for the people. Right now we have constrained job opportunities maybe, and there is need for that. And you know the way it happens. When you have more labor, there is a tendency for employers to pay less. Because if you don't want the money that you are being offered, you can just walk out and another person is coming to take up your job. Even they want even probably half what you are getting. So it's very difficult for wages to grow in that kind of environment. But in an environment where a lot of people are working and there's competition, you find wages automatically start going up. So we are faced with a situation where because of the high unemployment rates, the wages may not be able to move at the rates that you want. But as more and more jobs are being created, as more business are flourishing, you begin to actually see wages going up. Because you can't load all, the biggest employer in the country today is government. You can't load all the costs on government. The government needs money to do roads, to do hospitals, and other social infrastructure and amenities. So if you load them with 90% of the wages, of the bill as the wages, the government can't run. And that's why the president keeps talking about business growing. And that's why we are also glad that this bill, which was passed, is going to inject more money in the economy, because part of the benefits that are going to come from this is that some people are going to invest this money that they'll be getting into business. Someone is going to employ another person, and so if you are looking after 6 people, maybe you start looking after 2 or 3 because someone is working, doing something. That relieves you of the pressure, and you are able to use that extra created income for something.
We have a first caller. We will entertain it. I know we haven't first discussed the reform, but let's entertain it so that we can, maybe we have forgotten something. Yeah. Your name and where you're calling from?
Mukanda is my name.
From Rwanda.
Yes, please.
It's raining here in Osaka.
Oh, yes, not raining. It's almost raining during the day, but just a little showers, and that was it, just for about 5 minutes or so.
Okay, go ahead and make your contribution.
Yeah, number one, NPF and NAPSA, this is NAPSA. In the past, it looked like NAPSA was for a certain grade of workers in the civil service. And you find that, for instance, teachers were contributing to NPF. Then those who were like daily classified workers were contributing to NAPSA. Now, I just want to understand this because, of course, some of us who contributed to NPF, thinking of us maybe, even maybe now, because I don't think NPF has completely disappeared. I'm sure it is being phased out. But perhaps the question is NPF, once it's phased out completely, are we saying those who are getting their monthly allowances through NPF will have to get their allowances now under NAPSA or what? Number two, in the past, those who are contributing to NAPSA, we are getting less than those who are contributing to NPF in terms of monthly allowances. At what stage did the NAPSA overtake NPF? And the other thing I want to understand is NPF and the NAPSA now in terms of understand actually those who are getting NAPSA these days are getting more money than those who are getting from NPF in terms of monthly contributions. Kindly explain this. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
Okay. I think I need to explain the transition.
The transition, yes.
So in 2000, when NAPSA was created, it actually followed the closure of ZNPF. ZNPF ceased in 2000. Okay, the last everybody who was contributing to ZNPF transitioned to NAPSA. So there was no point where ZNPF and NAPSA were operating parallel. Midnight 31st January, everyone who was under ZNPF was transitioned to NAPSA. And so what has happened now is that those who contributed to ZNPF, they had their contributions preserved, but they now started contributing to NAPSA. So you had benefits, contributions under ZNPF, and you also have contributions under NAPSA. So that's why this bill, which was assented to by the president on the 6th, what it does is, first of all, for those who contributed to ZNPF, you qualified to access your benefits at age 50. When you reached 50, that's when you would qualify to get your age benefit. Okay? So when NAPSA came into being, the retirement age also changed. Okay? Now, if we are going to continue, because when ZNPF ceased, NAPSA became responsible for its assets and liabilities. All those were now vested in NAPSA. So NAPSA became responsible to pay benefits to all those who contributed under ZNPF. So now, if we are going to continue paying off those people who contributed under ZNPF, the last person was going to be paid off in 2034. That's when the last person would have been paid off. And so it was decided that we open it up. We don't have to allow people to let people reach 50 years. We open it up for everyone. Anyone who contributed to ZNPF, let them get paid whatever the age, and then we close off that fund. And there are reasons why that decision was taken. ZNPF assets became depleted. They were depleted. And so if we continue with it like that, it becomes a burden. So it was decided that we just pay off all the members of ZNPF, and then we close off all the accounts. So that's how now NAPSA is saying we pay off everyone, if the youngest person under ZNPF on our database should be around 36, 38, somewhere there. And that's why the new act allows for anyone aged 36 and above to come forward. Even if you are aged 39 and you had contributed to ZNPF, today or tomorrow, actually, you can walk into NAPSA and claim your benefits that have accrued under ZNPF. So ZNPF was not paying monthly annuities like NAPSA does. ZNPF, when you retired, when you reached your 50 years, you would be paid a one-off lump sum, and that was it. So those people that are under NAPSA and ZNPF and contributed to ZNPF, they would get their contributions and benefits that they made to ZNPF at whatever point they choose to. We are asking them to come now and get paid. That is the money that they can use to invest. We're talking about investment, doing business. That's money available for them. But for those then that are also transitioned to NAPSA, there is the retirement age that is prescribed by the law, and currently it's 60 for normal retirement. Then you'll be able to access those benefits. I know other questions that might arise about what about early access? There's early access that has been promised under NAPSA. According to the statement that I think was issued by the minister yesterday, she also did indicate that this is coming. It's in the pipeline.
Now, fast forward,
Yeah.
we have NAPSA.
Yes.
And NAPSA now is reforming.
Yes.
What are the major highlights in the NAPSA current reforms?
Okay, so when you look at the NPS Amendment Act, which was a bill which was assented to by the President the day before yesterday, that's on the 6th of December, it has three key elements. The first element being the reduction of the age for which at which a person can access ZNPF benefits. Initially, like I was explaining, it was 50. That is what was in the NPF Act. You could only access your benefits at age 50. Now, that has been revised and reduced from 50 to 36. So that's early access to benefits under ZNPF.
ZNPF, we'll see you next week. Your money is ready at NAPSA.
And it's not a joke, by the way. It's not a joke.
That's what I know.
Yes.
So there's going to be a lot of liquidity in the economy.
That's one of the benefits of this act that has come into play. It's actually unlocking resources, more resources into the economy.
So can you allow us to ask every after a point or highlight?
Okay, so we can discuss the NPF, then we can go down to the
reforms.
Okay.
Yes.
All right. So
that is good news, because you know me, I talk a lot on social media. I want to go and explain very correctly,
please,
so that people are able to understand. Yes.
So what basically? Yeah. So what basically this means is anyone who contributed, you contributed to ZNPF between 1966 and 2000, which is the period during which ZNPF existed.
Yes.
You have the right to come and claim your benefits even tomorrow, so that you get that money and use it for whatever it is your heart desires. But we hope that it is for investment. Yes, so that you can support your family. No, I was complaining about the lower salaries and all that. That is money that can help to actually boost your family's income through proper investment. So that is what basically the ZNPF amendment does.
Then
the next one
yes,
is the reduction in the penalty rate.
Yes.
Now, under NAPSA now. You realize that the penalty rate for delayed contributions under NAPSA was 20% monthly, cumulative. So it was quite punitive. Obviously, at the time when the act was passed in 2000, 20% was what it was, looking at the quantums of monies that were involved. 20% on some millions today is quite a lot of money, and obviously businesses have complained about how this is affecting liquidity of the businesses. And the government has listened through the National Pension Scheme Authority and passed this law that now reduces the penalty rate from 20% to 10%. Somebody would say, but and the employer is going to be defaulting more. If this rate reduction should actually encourage employers to pay, because actually what we are doing, NAPSA is there to facilitate business growth. The more business flourishes, the more NAPSA flourishes, the more the country flourishes. Because NAPSA's role in the economy is huge. You would understand that when we talk about our investment in the banking sector, we're literally supporting the financial sector in this country. Most of our investments are in the liquid assets, and among the major beneficiaries even the banking sector. We are supporting the economy even in terms of managing the level of the interest rates because of our controlled lending rates in terms of making sure that we do not price the money too high so that the banks are able to pass on the benefit to the people. Whether that is happening or not, that's another question for another day, but that is how we are supporting. A teacher is today able to go and buy a car because they have accessed some money from a financial institution because NAPSA has made it available, and you are able to get employed in a number of investments that we have, for example, in malls and the businesses that are supplying to supply chain to chain stores like Pick and Pay, ShopRite, and others. They are able. These are normally getting their fresh produce from local farmers. So you can see how our investment in the economy through investments in the shopping malls, in the banks, how this is supporting the economy. I can assure you, we would have started experiencing load shedding already if it was not the support that we provided to ZESCO to finish up the Kafueloa Gorge Power hydropower station. That we are very proud of that investment because at least today we are here and we are able to do business because that. I
used to sit on the NRIFL board, and I can attest to the fact that even towards road construction,
exactly,
you played the major.
The Copper Belt to Solwezi Northwestern Province corridor, fast movement of goods and people, less wear and tear on machinery, business, fast moving goods and that just changes the way business is done. And that is not corporate social responsibility. Whatever investment we do, it's not there just for a show. But we are earning a return for you, Doc, for everyone who's contributing, so that when your time comes to draw your benefit, you're drawing much more than you actually have put in.
So what of the early, for those of us that did not contribute to the other scheme,
Zambia National Provident Fund,
NPF.
Yes. Are we also going to be eligible to withdraw some money at some point?
Okay, so now you are referring to the other aspect of the reforms,
yes,
which is not covered in this one, which was done. Okay. So for this one, the other third aspect was the waiver, where NAPSA now will be able to give a waiver based on the guidelines that will be provided, that will be issued by the Minister of Labour, which work is in progress. So those are the three aspects. So that the penalty rate reduction with its benefits, the waiver with its benefits, unlocking for resources for business growth, for people to invest, and for job creation. Then there is that aspect that we were talking about, the early access, yes, that the government has promised. That work is in progress. As communicated by Minister of Labour yesterday, there is a drafting of the bill that will be going to Parliament, and then will be guided on the other steps.
So this is where now
Cabinet approved. I think it's important to understand that Cabinet approved that principle, and so it's the legislative process that is taking place. And as it were, I am not competent enough to talk about the legislative process, but all I can say is to reiterate the Minister of Labour's comments that this is coming. That's what the Minister of Labour has assured, and I know that my Director General, as he was speaking to the media yesterday when we had the press briefing, he also reiterated that this is coming. So it's a matter of taking care of the legislative process, and then we see how that goes. So I believe, Doc, you also be able to access
I have a small business.
at some point.
I want to come and access some money.
And
Director, do you have any messages before Mr. Noah moves in? The first question from Chapman C. Muzazu is that what's the maximum percentage out of the total contribution is one allowed to claim?
Okay, so I respond to that always.
Okay, let's read 2 or 3. We are eagerly waiting for the penalty waiver. For the first time, NAPSA, when are you going to announce the waiver for all penalties businesses have had? Kindly emulate ZRA, who has been encouraging taxpayers to continue paying tax by giving them this incentive. MD from Mansa. I've worked for 9 years in the Ministry of Health and I've resigned. I've joined the Ministry of Education. I was given a letter to claim for NAPSA contribution. Can I go ahead?
Okay. What's the maximum percentage?
Yes, one can claim.
Okay. So as we are speaking, we need to be very clear. Which one are we referring to?
Yes.
So here, when we talk about the ZNPF, which is also early access, because we have reduced the number of years required for one to access from 50 to 36. There you claim everything, basically what is there. There is no percentage involved. So for ZNPF, you come and claim you are given everything that you would have contributed. As for the other early access that the government has promised, now under the NAPSA, that is the one where we are saying this law is in the pipeline. When it is passed and everything is defined, we will come back here and explain to the people what it means, what percentage, how and who will be able to qualify, and everything related. It's not going to be a secret. We are going to unpack everything and explain to the people when that time comes.
So it seems a lot of people have misunderstood what the bill, which is now law, is about, because they are saying, oh, only those who contributed to ZNPF are eligible, meaning that the others who've been contributing to NAPSA are not eligible.
Yeah,
there has been a misunderstanding.
That misunderstanding has been noted, and that is why we are glad that this platform has been created to provide that clarity. There was a press briefing yesterday by the Director General to provide that clarity. There was a press statement by the Minister of Labour, just so that people understand what it is. And what we're saying is, obviously, there has been a lot of talk about the early access. People are eagerly waiting. But what we are saying is that there is a legislative process that needs to take place, and then we go that route. But for what has happened is there is early access, but under the ZNPF. For those who contributed to the Zambia National Provident Fund between 1966 and 2000.
The gentleman was working for Ministry of Health. He resigned. I don't know why he resigned. He should have just have transferred. Then he went to Ministry of Education. He worked for 9 years. He wants his money. They are giving him a claim form. Under which circumstances can he qualify?
So maybe before I come to that, there was another question. When is the waiver coming?
Yes.
Okay, so the law has been passed, and I know businesses are waiting. The law has been passed. What instrument, which is supposed to be now to provide guidelines on everything related to that waiver? How does one qualify? What is required for one to qualify, and all those requirements. So once the SI is put in place, then we'll be able to actually provide that. But for the penalty waiver, that has already kicked in. I mean, for the penalty rate, rather, the reduction in the penalty rate, the 10%, that has already kicked in, because there was no requirement for any other legislative process. But for the waiver, there is need for that SI which would provide guidelines, and that is coming very soon. Once the minister assigns the statutory instrument, then we'll come out again and explain what will be contained in the guidelines in terms of how businesses will be able to access that. So then there was the other aspect to say emulate ZRA in terms of giving waiver. Now, what the ZRA gives is not waiver but amnesty, which is different. Now, I need to explain something on this. The way NAPSA is structured, if you remember what I explained earlier, we receive contributions. And when we receive those contributions, we invest them to grow that money so that we are able to pay you a benefit that is prescribed by a formula. That formula does not take into consideration the level of inflation or interest or anything. It looks at the contributions that you've brought in, how many contributions you brought in, and there are other factors that are put in there to define your contribution, your benefit. Now, when we don't receive your contributions, that formula does not know that you didn't receive the contribution. It deems that you received the contribution. And so when calculating benefits, even the contributions, as long as somebody says, I contributed 180, those 180 would be considered to have been received. But if out of 180 you only received 70, what happens with the gap? And so to a level, that penalty comes in to replace the lost opportunity to invest. That is a loss, that's an opportunity cost that we would, because we would have invested the money and earned a return on that money so that we're able to pay you that money. But because somebody didn't pay that money for us to invest, that's an opportunity cost, and yet we still have to pay you. So that's why that penalty applies, because that then takes care of that opportunity cost, which would have completely been lost. And so when we say we waive, whose money are we waiving? Should we reduce from your contributions so that we say we waived? Or we did amnesty? Remember, Social Security is a human right.
Yes.
So if you are supposed to get X amount and you get X minus Y, that is an unfair treatment to you, because then you are being shortchanged. And so what we say is employers have a responsibility to remit the right amount and at the right time, so that we use that money we invest, we are able to pay you. When the employer holds back that money, then it means we cannot invest that money, and someone has to pay for that, the money when you have to pay those benefits. That is why the penalty is there. Now, therefore, the money cannot be waived just like that, because we are basically going to get someone's money and releasing it, and then we are infringing on someone's right. But it is realized that the penalty was too high, and that's why the penalty has been reduced. But it has not been scrapped off for the purpose that that opportunity cost must be recovered somehow. That is why that penalty is there. It's a deterrent from to employers, so that they do not default, but also make sure that the opportunity cost is not incurred.
You are watching Economic Briefcase.
But there's another question.
TV, you can call us. Don't feel shy. Send also messages on the number that are appearing on the screen. You can call in so that you can ask all your questions, so that you should be very clear on this very, very important matter. There was another question.
Yes. Can I claim my benefits? I was given a letter. Yeah. Still working. Mm. There are two principal conditions that you need to fulfill to access NAPSA benefits at present. One, you must retire. You must have a retirement letter. If you have a retirement letter, you come to NAPSA, then we look at how many contributions you have. If you have more than 180 contributions, we put you on a monthly pension. If you have less than 180 contributions, then we calculate the monies that are due to you, and you are paid a one-off lump sum. And this is, and I would like to clarify, because sometimes you go to social media and you find people saying NAPSA doesn't pay lump sum. We do pay, but that is when somebody does not qualify for a pension. And so if you are still working, you are just moved from one employer to the other, then you do not qualify to get your NAPSA benefits. Your NAPSA benefits, if it's a self-claim, you are the one claiming, you claim them when you retire.
There were a lot of myths and misunderstanding. I think I've learned a lot. Social media also is very worried. NAPSA does not invest our money very well. Which assets and at which principle does NAPSA use to invest resources? And investing in fixed assets like malls, is it beneficial or not? Maybe before we answer my question, let's take what is on the phone. Yes, your name and where you're calling from?
Dr. Linda.
Yes,
Dr. Linda.
Good evening.
Dr. Linda, good evening and the panel.
Thank you very much. Good evening.
Thank you.
I'm calling from Kitwe.
Yes?
I'm calling from Kitwe.
Yeah, we can get you. Go ahead.
Mundoro is my name.
You can go ahead and make your contribution, sir.
Yeah, my contribution is on the frivolous investments of NAPSA. This amounts to abusing the members' contribution.
Are you still there?
And can also add on the moral inspection, which is the Sinyangwe members use.
I think the line is not good. But anyway, basically he's asking what I think I wanted to ask. Where does NAPSA invest? Why does NAPSA invest in those assets? Is it true that you're not investing in good investments and all those myths?
Okay, so first of all, there are investment guidelines that are approved that NAPSA follows. In that guide, basically, what type of investment NAPSA can go in and to what extent. So you find that we have fixed term deposits. That's one of the asset classes. That's where we're putting deposits in the banks, and that money is being used for onward lending and other things. Then we have government securities, treasury bills, and government bonds. That's also the approved asset class. The other approved asset class is to do with infrastructure. You did mention the issue of the roads, and also I did speak to the issue of the Kafiwe Gorge law. You commended the roads, and I think we are sitting here, we actually have a bit of power because the Kafiwe Gorge is powering the nation right now, and that's NAPSA we partly invested in that project. You can judge also that. And then obviously we have real estate, commercial, and housing. In terms of commercial, you have the ACL Mall in Kitwe, the Society Business Park in Lusaka, and the Levy Business Park.
So Stay Easy belongs to us?
Stay Easy is your hotel, okay, as a member. So obviously when you talk about real estate, there are a number of challenges that we've identified. Just for example, talking about housing, we've heard people have complained about the high cost of houses that NAPSA puts up. And you know what has been happening? In the quest for NAPSA to put up the best infrastructure, we go in and we put up houses, we put up electricity, water, roads, and all that. So unfortunately, what that does, it would build into the cost of housing. Ideally, what should happen is that the roads must be done or taken care of by the local municipalities. The water and the sewer must be taken care of by the utility companies, including electricity. But you find that all these costs are being borne by NAPSA. And what this has been doing is has been basically making real estate or houses quite expensive for people to afford. This has been realized, and that's why NAPSA has slowed down on such kind of investment in terms of real estate. When you talk about the malls, of course, there is a huge proliferation of malls. All of a sudden, there's a mall everywhere. Just here in Kablonga, one corner you have Metro Mall, the other corner you have Pinnacle Mall, the other corner before you turn. You know what that does to business? It splits the customers, and obviously that tends to affect.
But ECO Mall and Levy, those are masterpieces. I must comment.
Indeed, but you see, the copper belt has gone through a turbulent time. Look at what is happening in the mines. There was a period of huge loss of employment where, and that time I was at Mopani Copper Mines, where over 10,000 employees were just laid off from one mine. And then you're talking about other mines also. So there are a lot of changes that have been taking place. You find when you are coming up with a plan, a model, you are looking at the as we go, and improving every step of the way.
My director is telling me we have too many messages. Director, let's go to the messages. Good evening. I was working as a mate. I was even a NAPSA member, and my boss left back to Europe. So 3 months now, I don't participate to NAPSA. So what should I do? Mr. Njapao, you are recording. My in-law retired in 2013 and he was put under life payroll. Unfortunately, he was not clear on the renewal of his forms. The money, they stopped coming in 2014. My question is, are they going to pay him all his arrears from 2014 to 2022? He is Mr. Amon Mululuma. He worked at Mogoto Clinic as a watchman. Good evening. I have enjoyed the program. You cited insurance as one way you can save money. However, we are disappointed by insurance firms such as, we are not going to mention names here. Can the president fix something in this company? It takes that company over 2 years for one to get their money after making a claim. With such companies, how can we thrive? That company needs help. Mulenga Chinsade, I think that this one will leave it out because it's...
No, but it's important that people bring out some of these things so that they can be addressed. Yeah, it's important.
I'm told now one can get part of their packages before retirement. My question is, if I want to build a house for me, if I want the house to be built for me by NAPSA as part of my package, what are the conditions? Civil servant from Western Province. I'm ashamed to be Zambian. NAPSA, shame on you. Who can be 36 under ZPF? It's a shame.
I think we'll continue with...
Good evening. Is it true that those government workers who migrated from pension fund to NAPSA qualify under ZNPF, or their pension contribution still sits at pension fund? Which pension fund is this?
PSPF, I think.
PSPF, huh? I think PSPF is still alive.
Yes, PSPF is still
alive. And they have built a very nice infrastructure by...
Yeah, by the...
Long Acres.
Yes. Yeah. That's the
So I think there's been 4 questions there.
Yes, you helped me with the last ones. But beginning with the issue of the maid, whose employer left and she hasn't been contributing. Actually, what it is the moment you have your social security number, that becomes your identifier. So even if somebody is not contributing for you for a certain period, when next you have you are employed, you will be using the same social security number. So whatever contributions come will be going to the same number. So you keep accumulating contributions. But the good news is you can actually register yourself and be able to contribute whatever little you would want.
As low as 50 kwacha.
As low as 50 kwacha. So that you boost your chances of qualifying for pension. Because, Doc, you can imagine that in this country, the minimum wage is about 900 and something. Yeah, just less than 1,000 kwacha. If a person, and I know that there are a lot of families who are paying their maids far less than the minimum wage. You can imagine a maid who is maybe saying, for argument's sake, is getting 800 kwacha. If they qualified for an NAPSA pension today, immediately they will begin to get the minimum pension, which is 1,200. No one should get anything below 1,200 when they qualify for an NAPSA pension, regardless of how much they were contributing. As long as they have garnered the 180 contributions, they qualify for the minimum. The maximum depends on how much you are contributing. The 1,200 is not the maximum, it's a minimum, regardless of how little your contributions were, as long as they were 180.
So looking at my salary, I can safely say I should stop investing.
No. remember we spoke about the 40% average career average replacement. Yes, so you shouldn't stop, so that you boost your chances of getting more at the end of the day. So, so to the lady who was a maid, you can either continue on your own contributing, and or make sure that when you get employed by any other person, you make sure that that person is contributing for you. It's your right, it's your basic human right, and make sure that no one is tramples on that particular right. There was a question to do with the retiree whose money stopped coming. And so what happens when a person is under NAPSA, is on pension? Every year they are supposed to renew their life certificate, because we want to know that we are paying the right person the benefits. Now there are times when people forget to renew. The pension stops going, because then we don't know whether this person is alive or not. Of course, we are now implementing systems that will enable us quickly discover whether somebody is alive or not. But sometimes people just disappear. Maybe they have gone to the village and no one is nowhere to be traced. So if they don't renew their life certificate on their birth date, that pension stops. But if they come back and they renew their life certificate, it could be even after 4 years or 5 years or 6 years, they will be paid all their arrears that they would have missed.
Good news. Zangena.
Can NAPSA build a house for me? So NAPSA doesn't do such individual contracts, or say my contributions, my pension, use it for that. And it's because the law currently does not allow the use of your pension for guaranteeing anything. You can't even get a loan from anyone to say you get from NAPSA when I get paid. There's nothing like that. So there is a cry out there for home ownership. People are saying we want houses. So these are things now that NAPSA is looking at to say how best can we facilitate. We tried that model which we are talking about, which we are making houses more expensive. We've tried to partner with utility companies so that at the point we are trying to start the project, they come in and commit to doing roads, water, electricity. This has proved sometimes as a challenge. So the model is changing in terms of how we move forward on that.
There could be there could be a partnership between NAPSA and ZNPF, maybe.
ZNPF or ZNBS?
ZNBS.
So there was a similar partnership actually a couple of years ago. That's how NAPSA managed to sell off the Northgate houses. So NAPSA entered into an MOU with the Zambia National Building Society, where Zambia National Building Society was able to offer anyone a mortgage at 14%. Which is the lowest that you can get, because the mortgage today is probably 23 or so. Yeah, and that was offered at 14%, and that's how quickly those houses in Northgate. So those are some partnerships going forward. These are the conversations that are now going on in terms of how best these products can be delivered to respond to some of the cries of the members.
So there was that insurance question which we were going to skip unless you would want to answer that one. Then there's another one which talked about who can be 35, less than 35 years under the NPF?
And 36, who can be 36?
Who can be 36?
Then it means they started work at 14, right? So ordinarily, the youngest would be about 38, right?
Yes.
36 is to make sure that no one is left behind, basically.
Okay. So amongst the approved investments that you mentioned earlier, there's one which you didn't mention, which is stocks. NAPSA is a player on the financial markets. And NAPSA being a player on the financial market, I'm an advocate for the financial market and the development of the financial market, especially our financial market here in Zambia. Now, NAPSA is an institutional investor on the financial markets, but the issue has been that it's not a market maker, it's not a market player. They buy to hold and they don't make the market. So as other insurance companies, they also emulate the same model where they buy and hold.
Let's correct our last phone call, then yours will be a last one. So this is our last phone call. Yes, your name and where you're calling from? Your name and where you're calling from? Mr. Japawa, over to you.
Yes,
Okay.
so you find that insurance companies, private pension funds also emulate the same. The follow-up after NAPSA. They are not making our market. They're not being market makers. They are thereby causing our markets to be inactive.
So yeah, actually I didn't finish actually even listing the various other investment assets. What you've mentioned is just one of them, our participation on the Lusaka Securities Exchange, where we are an institutional investor in 17 of the 23 listed companies. So basically you are talking about almost all the companies.
All the companies.
Basically 17 out of 23. What that does is provision of the much needed capital to companies to expand and create jobs and provide value addition. I'll give you two examples. Zambif, where we are also an institutional investor. From a small company, Zambif is now a continental powerhouse. That is what this does. When you look at Zambia Sugar, its expansion program supported by NAPSA, it's the biggest agro exporter in Africa. Now, when you look at how NAPSA participates in the various asset classes that we invest in, there are principles that we follow. And remember, our liabilities are long-term. So even our investment, it's done in such a way that we match our liabilities to our assets. We do not want a situation at any particular time where we are not able to pay benefits because we have invested in an asset that is not liquid at that particular time. That's why you find we have liquid assets and assets where we hold on the long haul. It's because we know that at that particular time, so many years from now, we will have to pay this liability. And so there are those principles that govern how we invest in any particular asset class. Real estate, for example, long term. Our participation on the market, on the money markets, long term. Our participation in the fixed term deposits, short to medium term. For example, we have to pay out ZNPF, those who are coming to claim their ZNPF following the new the signing of the law by the president. There has to be money available. We already have over 27,000 pensioners whom we are paying about 1.5 billion kwacha on an annual basis. So this money we are able to pay because the way the investments by NAPSA are done are such that there is supposed to be liquid money to make sure that everything that is happening, we do not have a situation where we do not have money. So it's because that's the nature of the investment. It's a long-term investment. So obviously there probably would be need for other players to come in who would be market makers, as you are putting it.
Or a portion allocated
or a portion, maybe that could be looked at.
A portion allocated saying...
So, dear viewers, I'm not trying to support or protect NAPSA here. So when you read the NAPSA Act, you are going to see that it's prescribed in which assets and classes of assets they can invest in. If they want to invest abroad, they need to seek permission from the minister, and they basically where to invest. All those things are normally written, and real estate is the most stable investment that a pension fund can invest in. And for me, as an economist, I believe that we do not even need foreign direct investment in the construction sector. All we need are formidable pension funds like NAPSA. I think that's my question.
And when you talk about real estate, it actually forms a small percentage of just about 12 to 15% of the whole asset class. The biggest asset class is in the liquid assets, which are the term deposits and the government bonds and treasury bills. So government is a big, NAPSA is a big player in when it comes to treasury bills and government bonds, providing very cheap, let me say affordable capital that the government also is able to access to provide various services to the people. But at the same time, for us, that's a business transaction where we are making a return for our members, for us to be able to pay that benefit when it falls due.
Mr. Sinyangwe, thank you very much for coming. Today we are discussing NAPSA reforms. I think we are going to get him here again very soon, because there's another package that is coming. Zinge and Amanye, this is the time for doing business. If you don't have financial literacy, this is the time for you to enroll in those short courses, long courses, so that we can able to create energy. It was a pleasure having you on Cabinet TV, especially at short notice, Mr. Njapao. I hope the week, as we approach Jesus' birthday, I wish you good luck. Mr. Jangoso, I wish liquidity in your family.
Thank you, Doc. At this time, that's very welcome.
And for you viewers, I also wish you liquidity. I wish you, a pleasant festive season. You are watching Cabinet TV, Economic Briefcase. See you next week.